One of the points that we covered earlier around some of the things that are feeding into the gradings that aren't quite reaching C1, and going back to that point about TSMs and things before, some of the things we tend to find that inform dissatisfaction or lower levels of satisfaction quite often seem to be housing stock and asset based. Why do you think that is? Do you think we're, as a sector, just better at certain parts than others in terms of assisting tenants with other things that sort of don't feed into asset management and sort of health and safety and repairs and maintenance? Why would you say it tends to be quite often stock and asset based issues that kind of feed into these things as often areas that need to be improved?
My personal view on it is because sometimes we take a very binary look at a housing association in a housing organisation, in the sense of it has to be this or that. If you dig into things like the TSMs, what you find is that people will either be happy or unhappy because of a multitude of things. It usually ends up at the door of repairs and assets, because ultimately people are either buying or renting a home from us. That's the crack. That's the deal that we do with every resident. So inevitably it ends up falling down as a cascade that always ends you up at that door. But I think the relative level of happiness and unhappiness that somebody has is usually because of a multitude of things. And some of that will be led from how they've been communicated with, from their initial points of contact all the way through. And some of it will come down to people being genuinely unhappy with the state of their home. But I think what we've got to start doing as organisations is probably thinking about this in a more holistic way, and actually the residents' views will be formed on their whole interaction with us, whether that is at the very first point when they speak to somebody in a call centre or use an online system, all the way through to that home. And I think the more we can do that as a sector, and the more we can do that as individual organisations, the better it'll stand us in a stead to get really like a compelling value proposition based around the whole entity of a home and all of the services that go on in it.